I said that I was going to take a political test online. Because I saw some YouTubers taking these political tests. They've been taking the easy ones, the ones that have like 40 questions. But I thought we're gonna go ahead and take this political test just to see, not only for my personal records, because I'm gonna upload this to YouTube and then I'm going to probably watch it in like 5 years from now, and it's gonna be funny to see how my perspective changes. I'll probably be more a part of the clique in 5 years, probably, because I can't go any. We'll see. But yeah. So I just wanted to make this video. 117 questions, so it's gonna be quite lengthy. So let's just jump right into this shit. Okay, so the first question: sexual orientation is a social construct. We're gonna absolutely disagree on that one. That one's pretty straightforward. I mean, if your facts and logic and into biology and science, it's pretty undeniably true. That a man is going to be attracted to a woman and a woman to a man. Obviously, there's going to be stuff in between, but in regards to politics, we're talking about a society. We're talking about the most people, and most people are going to be heterosexual. It is necessary to teach history in order to create a sense. Absolutely agree. What is a country without its history? What is a country without any ties to its roots? I mean, the people make a country. You might not agree with that, and maybe my opinion on that will change, but I really do believe that the people are the ones who make a country. I just think that's just fundamentally true, and you need to teach people what their people have done in the past to make the country the way that it is. About all the things that make a country great. It's so important to teach kids this stuff, because if you look around today, it seems like a lot of what we're teaching our kids is all of the bad things that we've done. Mainly white Western people. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's such a shame that so much blood has been spilled over centuries, and if not like millenniums, to make Western civilization what it is. So many wars, so much history over in Europe. Like, just think about the island of Britain and how much war it took, to actually get that place settled. Think about Rome. Think about World War One, World War Two. Think about all this stuff. The kids need to see the way that the older generation, and not just a couple generations, but hundreds of years ago, they need to see how these people thought so they can know where we are. If the kids don't know where we are and how we got here, then they're going to have no roots, and kids that have no roots have no belonging. And if they don't belong to the country, who do they belong to? They belong nowhere. Nowhere. I think a social continuity is created through tradition, and that tradition is created through teaching history. So, absolutely agree. Sexual assaults are partly caused by men's natural impulse. I'm going to say somewhat agree, but I just want to clarify, this doesn't excuse any form of sexual assault. But if we're purely looking at what's partly causing them, then yes, a man is just biologically more aggressive, and he's going to take what he wants. That is a more masculine trait. Men are much more physical. Look at how boys play compared to girls. We are much more physical, much more aggressive by nature. So I'm going to somewhat agree, but like I said, that does not excuse any form of sexual assault in terms of what's good or what's bad. In some specific conditions, the death penalty is justified. I think in some specific conditions, then yes, absolutely agree. It depends what they are, but yeah, I think that statement, I absolutely agree with it. Nobody is by nature predisposed to criminality. I'm going to rather disagree. Because if you look at statistics, there's always going to be like a roughly a 10 to 15% amount of any population anywhere in the world, regardless of their economic place in society, regardless of all of these things. First world countries, third world countries, obviously the crime rates of those are going to differ, but even in the good places in the world, there's always going to be a 10 to 15% amount of people that are just going to commit crimes. And that's just, do you know the answer? Is it nature? I don't know what causes this. Some people do it. I don't know. My country must pay for the damages caused by the crimes it committed in other countries. I mean, I feel like being accountable, a country should be accountable for what it does. Although, if said crime, what is the crime exactly, right? We need to figure that out. I think that a country can be held accountable. The question is, we can have ideas about what country does this and what country does that, but in reality, you know, what power is holding them accountable? You know, who is the, you know, is it the UN? Because bad things are happening all over the world in countries. Look at North Korea, like, you know, in China, these very powerful regimes that are oppressing people. This is happening right now. Pay for damages caused by crimes committed in other countries. Like, who is making people pay in the world? Who is it? I'm going to go somewhat agree, just because, like, it's easy to say that you should pay for this and that there should be consequence, but who's enforcing these consequences? I don't know. Maybe that's just a law of nature, that if no one's going to enforce it, then, you know, who's going to make these people pay? Activists must always act in strict accordance with the law. Once again, it depends on exactly what the activist is trying to do. You know, obviously, if you're like a animal rights activist, you're not going to do anything crazy, right? I think you should stay within the law. But for example, if you're talking about like the American Revolution, then obviously absolutely disagree. You know, if they're going to come with guns and they're going to tell you what to do, you know, the shot heard around the world, you know, Boston Tea Party, things of this nature, you know, these things are very real. You know, look at the protests in Hong Kong right now. They're breaking the law, according to China, but they're doing it for a good cause. So to say that an activist must always act in strict accordance with the law, what kind of strong activism are you going to do if you have to follow the law? The oppressive regime is just going to make whatever form of activism it despises illegal. So I was more on the fence before I started talking, so we're going to go absolutely disagree with that. It's kind of ridiculous to even say out loud. Like, obviously, you're going to ignore the law somewhat, but, you know, that doesn't mean you're going to do immoral things. You're just going to break the law. You know, it doesn't mean you're going to hurt anyone. So absolutely disagree. The values of my country are superior to those of other countries. Absolutely agree. In Canada, you know, we have very strong belief in social welfare, in social health care. We have very strong schools. We care deeply about sports. We've been in the past a mostly Christian nation. You know, we've helped out in World War I over in Europe, in World War II in Europe. You know, we were there on D-Day, standing for what is right. And ever since Canada was born, we've always been on the right side of history. That's obviously our values, you know? And yes, the values of my country are superior. Not to every country. And there's probably some countries that are superior to mine. But if you ask me, yes, our values are probably at least top 5% in the world. It is better to arrest someone potentially dangerous preemptively rather than taking the risk of having them committing a crime. Absolutely disagree. If you answer anything else but absolutely disagree on this question, there's something wrong with you, like in your head. Think about like what this actually means in terms of racial profiling, and then not only that, think about like in China, like an oppressive regime there. Anyone that is like a dissident, anyone that has more fringe political views, they're just going to put these people in jail. Absolutely disagree. This is so anti everything. Yeah, no, absolutely disagree. Technological progress must not change society too quickly. I think that technological progress is going to change society no matter what. And since it's determined by the free market right now, it's going to change very fast and it's going to change it very quickly. Look at how quickly the smartphone changed society. Look at how much an impact Facebook has had. Just that one simple thing. And then not only that, look at the impact that 3G, having data on your cell phone, has had on our society. And it's going to. It's kind of a silly question, to be honest, because no one has the power to say what it's going to change, the speed that it's going to change society, because nobody can even predict how it's going to change it. No one knows. Ideally, I do agree with the statement, but that's just an ideal. It's completely far removed from reality. But yes, ideally, yes, I agree. Activism in existing political organizations is not relevant to change society. Rather disagree. I don't know, it's kind of a simple question. We need to make compromises with the opposition to apply our ideas. I mean, at the end of the day, in a democratic society, which we have over here, anyone that is too far left or too far right, or too libertarian or authoritarian, they're always going to be viewed as like a fringe outsider, and they're going to be kind of pushed away because they're too extreme. Nobody wants to listen to anyone who isn't willing to compromise, who isn't willing to, pull the window over just a little bit. I think everyone can get on board with that, even if you disagree with it. Anyone that is trying to do radical application of their own ideology, and if their ideology is that extreme, then if you're not willing to compromise, you're just not a sane person. So I would say I absolutely agree. You have to make compromises. I think that there is in any ideology, you're going to have core pillars of your ideology that you will not compromise on. But for the most part, in our society, you're going to have to, on everything else beside those pillars, you're going to have to compromise. That's just, or else you're not going to get anything done. We have to work together. It's annoying, but it's the best system that mankind has ever created. So we're going to go with that. One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. Absolutely disagree. Yeah. Not really anything to say about that one. Absolutely disagree. We should always distance ourselves from protesters who use violence. It kind of goes back to the Hong Kong thing. Like, what do they mean by violence? Because I could totally see a scenario where police with riot shields go in to subdue some protesters, and maybe the protesters don't go down easily. And the media would totally write them as violent, even though they aren't the ones making it violent, although they are causing a ruckus. It's a complex thing. But I think that if you're violent and you still have really good morals, and you're not out to hurt anyone, you're just defending yourself, then I think I can cheer for a protester who does that. A person that's standing up for what they believe in, and they're protecting themselves using violence from people who have used violence first. I'm going to disagree, because I'm not going to try and distance myself from anyone that's standing up for what they think. I think it's quite admirable. State-run companies should be managed like private ones and follow the logic of the market. I mean, it depends what the company is, but I would say I do agree they should go to profits. But it depends. It depends what field it is. It depends. So I'm only going to go somewhat agree. Homosexuals should not be treated equally to heterosexuals with regards to marriage, filiation, adoption, and procreation. I don't see any reason why a homosexual person wouldn't be treated equally to a heterosexual person. The only thing that really matters here is the adoption. And if someone was going to say that if a baby was adopted by two dads, is that a terrible thing? I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know what the stats are for that type of thing, but I do think that if you take a baby and you put it in an abusive, low income, poor household with bad parents who are heterosexual, I think I would rather have the baby in the hands of a gay couple. I would take that 10 out of 10 times. That seems obvious to me. Yeah, that seems pretty obvious. So, yeah, I absolutely agree. It is acceptable that there are rich and poor people. What do you mean by accept? It's just how it is. Yes, it's just how it is. The police should be armed. Yes, the police should be armed. 100%. Why would they not be armed? They're the police. The people who you call when you can't phone anyone else, when no one else can help you and you can't help yourself. Yes, these people should be armed. Offshoring and outsourcing are necessary evils to improve production. I would say they are necessary in regards to there is no alternative. Now that globalization has occurred, it was always going to occur. If you went back to the Big Bang, you could at that point say that globalization was inevitable. And I don't know if the Earth existed back then, but don't get too autistic about that point. It is necessary, but I don't think that it should be praised as much as it is. Look at what happened to our economy during all these border closing things that happened with the coronavirus. None of that stuff is good. Having our own factories so we can self-sustain ourselves in every field is really important. They are necessary to improve it. I will somewhat agree. It is legitimate for a country to intervene militarily to defend its economic interests. I do think so. I mean, I'm not going to absolutely, but I will somewhat. I do think that it is important. If we're dealing with that one, what's it called? The Strait of Hormuz? I might have not pronounced it correctly, but those areas that are so vital to oil and the transportation of it, that needs to be protected with our military because it's worth so much. We need to protect it. I don't know. It seems really obvious to me. If you disagree with it, I understand why, because obviously military across the world is always kind of something you should be really, really skeptical of. If we're going to use our military, it has to be for the right reasons, and it must be, I would say, passive. We don't want an aggressive military unless that's the best strategy as a part of a defensive mentality. So I'm going to go somewhat agree. Revolutions will always end in a bad. Absolutely disagree. There's a bunch of examples of this. The American Revolution. Look at Martin Luther, and the Catholic Church. That was a revolution, and that went really good. There's lots of revolutions that end in a good way. So absolutely disagree. If two countries have similar economies, social systems, and environmental norms, then free market between them has no negative impact. Well, I am Canadian, and we do border the United States, which is a Christian country. It is a white country. We speak English. We pay attention to the same celebrities. We watch the same sports. We even share sports teams. We have teams in each other's sports leagues. And I would say trade with the United States has been phenomenal. It's one of the most unique, most special relationships in the whole world. You know, the United States and Canada, a lot of people take it for granted. Just how special it is because it's so peaceful. It's a very nice thing. And I don't know if Americans feel the same way, but that's how I feel. So absolutely agree. I do not have any problem if other official languages are added or replace the already existing official language in my country. Absolutely disagree. That's just crazy. That's craziness. Why would anybody want their native language to be replaced by a foreign language? Nobody would. No one. Anyone. Do you go ask an Indian person in India, do you want everyone here to start speaking English? No. Go to Japan. Ask a Japanese person, do you want everyone here to start speaking English? No. That's ridiculous. Absolutely disagree. The purpose of the judiciary system should be to punish those who went against the law. Hold on a second. There's a typo there. But that's not why. It should also defend people. Is that sort of the same question? Is it the same thing? I'm going to go somewhat. We're going somewhat. It is necessary to avoid private monopoly. Somewhat. I do think somewhat. Sabotage is legitimate under certain conditions. What do you mean by legitimate? Like, do they mean morally okay? If it's life or death, and we're in a fucking war, yes, it is. It is legitimate. Under very certain conditions, yes, it is. We're going to go somewhat. Humans should neither eat nor exploit animals. Absolutely disagree. Fight me. It is necessary to implement assemblies to ration our production to the consumers according to their needs. No. That just seems like you're just... Who's going to be on the assembly? Who's going to be on the assembly? It's just going to be a bunch of corrupt people. No way. It's not even going to accomplish what you want the assembly to do something. It's not going to do what you want it to do. It will at the start, and then over a number of years, it's just going to get corrupt. No, that's stupid. In a perfect world, yes. No, but that's... No. The labor market enslaves workers. Absolutely disagree. Listen, I know a lot of people will disagree with my answer. You don't have to work. And I know that's kind of a shitty take, but I don't think it's any more complicated than that. You should be thankful for having a job. A good citizen is a patriot. Well, of course. Of course. Even if you dislike some of the people or some of the things that your country has done, at the end of the day, you should always be proud of your country. Maybe if you don't live in a Western country, it's harder to say that. I don't know. But I assume everybody feels this way. If you don't, we just see it differently. It's fine. Maybe you could change my mind if we sat down and spoke about it. But right now, absolutely agree. I think being a patriot is really, really important. You know, because when all the chips are down, you know, you gotta side with your country. At the end of the day, you know, even if you hate left and right politics and this constant bickering back and forth, at the end of the day, you gotta want us to win. Even if we argue all the time,
It's still about us winning. And I think that's what being a patriot is about. Transhumanism will be beneficial because it will allow us to improve our capacities. I think that it comes at a great cost. Is this talking about um like enhancing humans, like cyborgs, like bionic arms and shit? Is this, let's see. The belief or theory that the human race can evolve beyond its current physical and mental limitations, especially, okay, yes. Yes, but I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant because, listen, there's always two sides. You never know what's going to happen. Dismissals of employees should be forbidden except if it is just absolutely disagree. You know, maybe I'm biased on this topic, but, you know, if both my parents own businesses, if they want to fire someone, you're gone. They own the business. You're out of here. That's just how I see it. You know, maybe you don't see it that way. It's fine. It is not acceptable that human actions could lead to the extinction of a species. It depends. It depends. And I know a lot of people are probably shocked to hear me say that. It is somewhat acceptable because if it's my country and my people and my jobs and my family and my economy versus a species of frog in a swamp, I'm sorry. I'm pro-human. I'm pro-human. I'm sorry. I feel terrible about it. I do. But that's just how it goes. If to give you something to think about, look up how many species of animals have gone extinct since the world began. Just look that up. It's just how things go. Abstinence should be preferred to contraception to preserve. Yes, absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. Our society has, for some reason, fallen in love with this idea that you just have to have sex. You know, all this pro-abortion, pro-choice stuff. You know, this Coomer nationalism. We have free market pornography. We have romanticized the sexual act so much so that people are now starting to say that it is a right to do these deviant things, that you shouldn't even be shamed for doing these sexually deviant things. At the end of the day, you do not have to have sex, okay? You really do not have to have sex. Like these people, they talk about sex like it's like drinking water. It's not. It's not. Absolutely agree. That's just how I feel about it. Changing the system radically is counterproductive. We should rather transform it progressively. I mean, I don't want to do anything too quickly. I think if you do, you're kind of nuts. So yeah, somewhat agree. Patents should not exist. I do think you should get credits when you make something. I'm neutral. I can see both sides. Hacking has a legitimate place in political struggle. I mean, here's the thing with hacking. If you hack someone and you uncover something really, really nasty and you expose it to the public, you will be called a hero for what you hacked. But if you hack into something and you don't find anything and then you get busted, you do look like a piece of shit snake. Does it have a legitimate place? It depends on what the hacker finds. You know, if you're unveiling something that is going to swing an entire election because of just how serious it is or what the implications of it are, then that is truth. And if you are hacking to find the truth and you're sharing that truth with the people, then yes, I will say I somewhat agree, yes. Citizens should take priority over foreign. Absolutely agree. Why not? If we're talking about politics, right? We're talking about society. If we're talking about society, we're talking about societies within borders, right? If that's not what we're talking about, then we're not talking about politics. We're talking about society. We're talking about our society. I'm talking about mine right now. Everybody who is foreign, they might be smarter than me. They might be better than me, more informed than me, whatever. But they're completely irrelevant. Unless the policies that we're talking about is affecting their life directly because we have our hands in the way things are done in their country, then yes, the citizens here should take priority 100%, 10 out of 10 times. That is why people get elected, to take care of the people who are here. Who can vote to put people in power here? It's the people who are here. So yes, a person who is in power should always be siding with their citizens, obviously. Social assistance deters people from working. I think there's some truth to this. I've seen it many times. I've seen my friends even claim employment insurance. It does deter people, but it also gives people help, and it makes it so they don't fall all the way to the bottom and become homeless. But the statement itself, that it deters people from working, I know that it does. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've lived with people taking advantage of it. I've had friends taking advantage of it. Multiple friends. So yes, I do agree. The filing and storage of personal records should be delimited strictly, and database cross-checking should be forbidden. Yes, I do agree with this. Obviously, it depends on what kind of database it is. Like, I don't really have a problem with like insurance companies, having a lot of your information, or like, people at the border having a lot of information. But it depends on what sort of records they're keeping. But so basically, what I'm saying is, it should be limited a lot. So I absolutely agree. Selfishness is the overriding drive in the human species, no matter the context. Well, I think it depends on the context, but selfishness is a very, very strong source of fuel for the human. Without it, I mean, we can all say that we're selfless, but at the end of the day, you have to be motivated by things that are helping you, and you can make an argument that helping each other helps you, in return. Is that selfishness, right? Is me doing a certain job for my group, and me becoming the most revered person in my group, is that selfish? If it's helping everyone more optimally, is that selfish? Because I could see someone making the case that it is. I think I'm going to go somewhat agree. Foreigners living in my country should be allowed to act politically equally to those who have absolutely disagree. These people that come here, they do add things to our country. I will agree. But most kids in my country don't know the history of it. Do you think that people in a foreign country are going to know about it? No. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. Now, in regards to rights, they should be allowed to act politically. Eventually. But I think you have to be born here. Even if you do live in a household with 8 foreign people and you're the first Canadian-born person, you should be able to act politically. Everybody else should not be able to. You should have to be born here. And that just makes sense to me. Why would we let someone come here from another country and change our society? What are you doing? If you think that's the right thing to do, you're cucked. You're insane. Like, what are you? Are you high? Like, yeah, absolutely disagree. The fact that some schools and universities are private is not a problem. I don't think it's that big of a problem. No, there should be a public school and university, but no, I don't think private institutions are a problem. Social differences between ethnic groups cannot be explained by biology. What is this asking? It can't be explained by biology? What is this trying to get me to say? what what is this? What is it trying to do? What is it? This is a nasty question. I don't like this question. First off, ask a fucking biologist. I don't know. I don't study humans. I don't study race and genetics. I don't know. Social differences between ethnic groups cannot be explained by biology. I don't know. So I'm going to go neutral or hesitant. Violence against individuals is never productive. I'm going to go somewhat agree, because I think sometimes violence is okay. The age of retirement should be lowered. No, it should be a bit higher, right? Because isn't the average lifespan increasing? I'm pretty sure. So I'm going to go neutral. All sciences, even chemistry and biology, are not absolute and are subject to being shaped by our society. I wish that this was the case. It's not absolute because you have people like Bill Nye saying that gender is a spectrum. Like, what kind of a scientist are you? If you look at the chromosomes that determine your gender, this is not open to being shaped by society. Yet you have these scientists that are totally just going against their own beliefs, their own profession. It's absolutely insane. I wish this was true. So I somewhat agree. It sucks that I agree. It's not good. It is a small group that consciously and secretly controls the world. I mean, is that not the UN? Like, ideally, like, say the UN got its way, that is what the UN would be. What do they mean by a small group? Right? If you took all of the leaders of the world and you put them in a room together, that's a small group compared to all the people. Like, how many people are in the world? Like 7 billion? How many people would be in that room? Huh? What? Like 300, 350? I don't even know. That's a small group compared to 7 billion. So it depends what they mean by small group, but I will say I absolutely agree with this. Compared to the number of people in the world, compared to those in control, it's astronomically small. It's so ridiculously small. It's really bad. So yeah, I absolutely agree. The state should be abolished. I'm gonna go rather. This is a hard one. This is one of the oldest questions in this political sphere. I would say the state should be abolished. I mean, right now in Canada, yes. I do agree. So I'm just going to answer according to right now and according to in my country. Yes, it does. I don't like what Justin Trudeau and all his friends are doing. I don't like the way speech is being controlled. I don't like carbon tax. I don't like a lot of our overbloated branches of our government that deal with all these bullshit things and waste so much money. But I don't think it should be abolished. I mean, that's just crazy. But I am always pretty much anti-government. I think it's just always bad. It's always bad. Even if it's good for me, I think it's mostly bad. So I'm going to somewhat agree. Borders should eventually be abolished. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Do you know how these borders got formed? People fucking had to die
for this shit? What do you think? Like, everyone was just peaceful, and it was like, oh, you want that much? Oh, okay, it's okay. I'll compromise. No. To get people to compromise, people had to beat other people into submission and then make them compromise through fucking war and blood. Eventually be abolished. What do you think the difference is between Canada and the United States? Between North and South Korea? Between China and Japan? Between the United States and Mexico? It's so ridiculous. I can't even believe it. Ugh. Abortion should be limited to specific cases. Absolutely agree. Nuclear fission, when well maintained, is a good source. Well, I mean, if it's well maintained, then absolutely. Why not? But, you know, it's a little sketchy. A good policy is a pragmatic policy without ideology. Yes. No one should get rich from owning a business, housing, or land. Well, I disagree. Yeah, I disagree. Absolutely. It is unfair to set a minimal penalty for an offense or crime. Disagree. It's 100% fair. Absolutely disagree. People need to know when they're taking a risk and stealing a car or selling a crack rock, they need to know in their head exactly what's going to happen if they get caught. There should definitely be a minimum penalty, and they should all know it. Energy and transport structures should be a public matter. Yeah, definitely the government should provide that stuff. The categories women and men are social constructs that should be given up. That's ridiculous. You're fucking crazy if you think you're a retard. Absolutely disagree. A language is defined by its users, not by its scholars. Somewhat agree. Somewhat. It is necessary to massively invest in research to improve productivity. Well, of course. Why wouldn't we? The influence of religion should decrease. Absolutely disagree. It's decreased to the point where it's like not even a thing anymore. It needs to increase. Maybe if you don't live in the West, if you do, you know what I'm talking about. Religion doesn't even fucking exist over here anymore. It's really sad. Absolutely disagree. Nowadays, employees are free to choose when signing a contract with their future employer. Yes, I see it all the time. Justice should always take into consideration the context and the past. Yes, definitely. If it's someone's first offense, it should definitely be taken into account. Obviously, depending on the charge, but yes, it should. Market economy is optimal when it's not regulated. For the most part, yeah, I'm going to absolutely agree. Yeah, for the most part, yes, that is how it works. That's what capitalism has taught us. It has its warts, but that is essentially what we've learned. Loans contracted in the public sphere, state, regions, collectivities should not necessarily be refunded. Loans. Well, no, they should not be refunded, not necessarily. So I'm going to go rather disagree. Oh, wait, no, somewhat agree, yes. Armed struggle in a country is sometimes necessary. Yes, it is sometimes necessary. I don't want it to be that way. I don't want there to be armed struggle. But if you say that it's not sometimes necessary, if a dude comes up to you with a gun, are you going to say, oh, well, fighting back isn't really necessary. Just take everything and you're in power now? Because armed struggle is not necessary. It is necessary. Sometimes. It's terrible. Yes, I know. But I do agree. It is necessary. Conditions of life in jail should be greatly improved. Disagree. Why? I don't give a fuck. Order and authority should be respected in all circumstances. Rather disagree. You should always respect it, but, you know, come on. To respect it absolutely, you should always question it. People need to stand up for their ideals, even if it leads them to betray their own country. As long as that country isn't mine, then yes. Like, say, for example, if you're in China and you have, like, a dissident, fringe political view,
Yes, betray your country because your country is wrong. Um, in the West, I can't ever see this actually becoming a real thing. If betraying your country is a thing in the West, it's happening every fucking day. Look at the kids on college campuses tearing down statues of the people that built this country. They're betraying it every day. So this scenario is already here, but it's not as serious in the West as it is in China. Because in China, if you do it, we'll shoot you. If you do it here, people clap for you. It's really sad. So I'm gonna be neutral on this one. Yeah, marriage should be abolished. Why? Why? It makes sense. Yo, if a girl's gonna have your kids, she's gonna be on a bed, metaphorically, for 9 months. She needs. That's just one. What if she has 3 or 4 kids? What if she has 2 or 3? She needs the security of marriage to do that with you, to know that her taking all of these months out of her life, sometimes even years, having kids for you, you and her, it's for both of you. She needs some sort of security. What other way could she gain the security if it wasn't through marriage? It's really important because you can't gain the security just through getting pregnant, or else girls would just become pregnant with the guys who are rich, right? And girls will marry you for this reason, obviously, but the guy will actually have a choice going in and enter in this relationship, into this contract, right? This is why you don't have sex before marriage, because you know before you go in that it's not going to be built on lust. Absolutely disagree. We should accept changes in our way of consuming food to limit the exploitation of nature. Disagree. Exploitation of fossil fuels is necessary. At this point in time, it just is. Foreigners enrich our culture. Rather disagree. Mass strike is a good way to acquire new rights. I mean, it can work. I don't know if it's good, but maybe it's the only thing that works. So yeah, somewhat agree. Minimal levels of salary should be ensured to make sure that it works. Yes, of course. There should be a minimum wage. Who knows what people would pay people? It would be really, really bad. So yeah, there should definitely be a minimum wage. Definitely. We need to establish a monarchy to federate the people and preserve our sovereignty. If our sovereignty was at stake, I would want to do this, yes. Is it at stake? Sometimes right now it does feel that way. When you see the native citizens of our countries being just demonized just for existing, it does kind of feel that way, where I live in Vancouver, it's an international city, What is sovereign about a country or a city if everybody's a part of it? There is no sovereignty. There's none. It just belongs to everyone. These sort of things, these feelings do make me. I would like to establish a monarchy. Now, am I saying that's what I want? No, but it is bubbling. It's when I think of that, it's not completely crazy to me. A couple of years ago, it used to be. Now, not so much. So we're gonna go. If that's what I wanted, if I had to protect sovereignty, then I would say yes. I am hesitant. So we're going hesitant. Changes in an individual's way of life can induce. Absolutely. Why wouldn't it? This is an idea from Jordan Peterson. If you might think that you have no effect on the world around you, but think about it like this. If you start working out and you start lifting and you start improving your life and you start, becoming like a pseudo philosopher, and you start changing yourself, you start improving yourself, and you start sharing all these ideas, and you start talking to the people around you about your ideas, and they start acting like you, and they start thinking like you, and you Then you change 2 people. Now you have 2 people that think like you, right? Now those 2 people, they might know 2 people, and then this one might know 3 people, right? And very quickly, you can change your whole house, and then you can change your group of friends. Eventually, you could change so much. It's kind of cliche and cheesy, I know, but I do absolutely agree with this. You can. You 100% can. Members of a nation or culture have some unchangeable characteristics that define them. Yes, absolutely. It is important to encourage an agriculture that maintains a food biodiversity even if the output is inferior. What is a food biodiversity? All of these definitions have not answered my question very well. Yeah, this is all important stuff. I would say, yeah, definitely. Traditions should be questioned. Somewhat agree. Actually, I'm going to go neutral or hesitant because right now in 2020, on April 2nd, we are doing this a little too much, to be honest with you. It seems like we're doing it a little too much. In fact, it seems like we're doing it just to do it now. Like, it's ridiculous. So I'm actually going to go rather disagree because we need to slow this down. Yeah, enough with that. Maintaining strong economic growth should be an objective. Of course, that should be an objective. It shouldn't be the main. Maybe it should be the main, but yeah, it should be an objective. Yeah. The maximum allowed hours in the legal work week should be increased. Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, what? Why wouldn't a person be allowed to work longer? That makes sense. Like, if a person wants to work a shit ton, let them work a shit ton. Why not? Euthanasia should be authorized. Neutral. Revenues and capital should be taxed to redistribute wealth. What is this? Is this asking me if I believe in taxes? This is just asking me if I believe in taxes. Well, yes, obviously. The right to be anonymous on the internet should be guaranteed. Somewhat? Yeah, I do somewhat agree with this. But if you share yourself, then you're done. Biologically, human beings are designed for heterosexual. Well, of course. We're talking about most people. Yes, that's true for most people. It is merit that explains differences of wealth. Somewhat. I do somewhat agree with this. Insurrection is necessary. What is this? What is this word? A violent uprising against an authority or government. In order to deeply change? Is it necessary? No, it's not. Because look at how much, the SJWs and feminism and the globalists have changed our society without a violent uprising. There's been no violence. I wish there was. I'm kidding. But I'm going to go neutral. Some sectors or type of employment should be financially supported. Yeah, I do think that's true. Some sectors aren't there to make money. Think about it like a forest ranger, right? Wildlife inspectors, things like this. No, there's no money in that. Capitalism does not build that type of stuff. This has to be financially supported through our government, and it has to exist. So yes, I do agree. Individuals who get out of prison should be accompanied in their reinsertion. Yeah, I agree. You can't just open up a jail door and just push someone out of it. It is important that health should stay a public matter. I am Canadian. Yes, it should. I I can't think of another way. It just seems like when you're a first world country, you should be able to go to the hospital. Heavy penalties are efficient because they are dissuasive. I don't know, but I would like to think they are. So I do agree with this. Transgender individuals will never really be the gender they would like to be. I'm going to go absolutely agree. The main goal of a couple is to make at least one child. Of course. Of course. Some couples it can't be done, but that doesn't mean you can't love each other still. But I do think if you're with a girl for a long time, you should be aiming to get married. And if you're going to get married, you should have a kid. Why not? I think that a kid is the most special thing in the whole world. I really do. A kid, a new baby, I think it is a miracle. I think it sounds cheesy, but I think it's the most special thing on this planet. I really do. Think about it. A kid is literally magic. It is something from nothing. It starts as a sperm cell entering an egg, and it can grow into someone. And it, from an egg and a sperm cell, it grows. Worst case scenario, assuming it's a healthy person, worst case scenario, healthy, it's going to be a cog in our economy. If we have 10 kids, we have 10 cogs. If we have no kids, we have no cogs. Now, if we have 10 kids, one of them could potentially be a genius. Now we have 9 cogs and a genius who's going to figure out a more efficient way to use these cogs. And it's every single time we're having a kid, it could be a genius. It could be someone that does something amazing every single time. And like I said, worst case scenario, what do the globalists always say? Why do we need immigration? Huh? Why do we need immigration? They always say, you need it, you need it. They're going to take these jobs. It's going to help the economy, right? Because a body helps your economy. What do you think a child turns into? At the very least, it turns into someone who will help the economy. Absolutely agree. It is acceptable that some industry sectors are private. It's acceptable. Yeah. I wouldn't say. Imagine being like, this is unacceptable. Yeah, it's definitely acceptable. I am equally concerned about the inhabitants of my country and those of the other countries. No, absolutely. I am not equally concerned. Not to say I don't care about people in other countries, but obviously, if there's a pecking order, my people come first. Why wouldn't they? Elections organized by the state cannot question the powers in place. I kind of want to agree with this. Elections organized by the state cannot question the power. I mean, look at the Democratic Party right now in the United States. Joe Biden? Really? That is going to be the nominee for the Democratic Party? Is that really what all of my friends on the left, all the liberals, all the intellectuals, is that really who the people wanted to represent their ideas? I don't think so. I really don't think so. He is awful. And that is because he is a part of the establishment. And the establishment is choosing who is up there. I'm going to somewhat agree with this. Preserving non-urban ecosystems is more important than creating jobs. I'm hesitant. The social roles of women and men can partly, of course, men and women are different. There's so many countless examples of this. Yeah, absolutely. Hormonal differences can explain some differences in individual. Of course, a guy that has ridiculous high testosterone levels is going to be stronger. He's going to be more aggressive. He's probably going to be better at sports. Probably going to make more eye contact. He's probably going to be more attractive to women, and vice versa. So I absolutely agree. Of course, looking for one's own profit is healthy for the economy. As long as you pay your taxes, of course it is. Absolutely, you got to pay your taxes. But yes, of course. It is necessary to remove regulations in labor legislations to encourage firms to hire. Yes, it depends on what regulations we're talking about, because you should have to be a legal citizen in this country before you can work here. But I do think some of these policies are a little overblown in regards to who's allowed to work where. And there's a lot of contradiction within them and a lot of hypocrisy as well. So I do think that you should remove some regulations. Yes. Because you don't want too much. You don't want too much regulation. It depends what the regulations are. This is a really bad question. Because just regulations in general, some of them could be really good. This is a weird question. I'm going to go somewhat agree. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is a necessity in order to be protected from terrorist acts. I'm neutral or hesitant on this one. Think about this. I do agree with the statements, but think about the word terrorist act. They have called, the media I'm talking about, have called white supremacists terrorists. They compare people that, and when they say white supremacist, they say, if you say you're anti-immigration, right? People, and this is not all people, will assume you're a white supremacist. You know exactly what I'm talking about. If you have very traditional values about religion, about your culture, if you want to protect your culture, they assume you're a white supremacist. You follow? Right from there, once they label you a white supremacist, now they also call you a terrorist. Now they're going to be frisking you. They're going to be violating some of your freedoms once they tag you with this terrorist word, which is bullshit. So I'm going to go rather disagree, because anyone who is dissident is going to be hurt by this ideology, because terrorists who Al-Qaeda, okay, fuck off. Rather disagree. Space colonization is a good solution for supplying the lack of raw material on Earth. Rather disagree. I personally think it's a waste of time. I can't see any way we're actually gonna pull that off. That's so fucking expensive, man. It's so expensive. Research produced by my country should not be available to other countries. I do somewhat agree. Mainly just because of countries like China. If we were all dealing on good faith, I would like to absolutely agree. Or rather disagree. But a country like China is not going to share their research. We know this. North Korea is not going to share theirs. Really, all this is going to do, because I am in a first world country, in a Western country, when we share our research with the world, and we should, we're really only helping the world mostly. Obviously, there's going to be other discoveries and good research done by other countries, but for the most part, it's mostly done by first world countries. Obviously, a third world country isn't going to have the same type of research labs and opportunities. They're not that stage yet. So I somewhat agree, but I would like to be in between these two. Multiculturalism is a threat. Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're going to come here and make this culture here multicultural, the people that are coming here and bringing this new culture here, my culture is not going there. It's a one-way street. I don't know if you know this, but there's a culture here right now. Right now. Making it multicultural, you're destroying what's already here. There's someone here. There is a culture here. There was a country here already.
It wasn't just a blank canvas. I absolutely agree. I think it's really sad. Like, why? If I said I was going to go to Japan and change their culture, like, people would be offended. You should be offended. It's sick. There's people there. Ugh, so sad. Wage labor is a form of theft from the worker by companies. What? Absolutely disagree. We must fight against global warming. Rather disagree. Differences of treatment and quality of life in our society show that racism is still omnipresent. Disagree. I don't think that the treatment of people is getting anyone down. There's a couple things that prove this. That isn't always the case. Most people that think that racism is this monster that's just ravaging the first world, they can't even find one racist policy in our government that discriminates based on color. And if they do, it's always immediately shot down. It's so easy to shoot it down because it's just unfounded. Although, I do think it can affect quality of life. Being a minority in a democratic society is always going to suck. You're always going to get outvoted. Always. And the people that are going to get on stage that are going to make the decisions aren't going to be in your demographic. That sucks. Being a minority sucks. So yeah, I'm going to say somewhat agree. My religion must be spread as widely as possible. Well, Christianity and Protestant Christianity is a very nice religion. It's very friendly. It's very loose. You know, this is why you see gay priests who are Protestants, priests who are Protestant that are pro-choice, that are okay with people smoking weed. You know, Protestantism, I think it should be spread as widely as possible. I think it's the most purest form of virtue that there is without being authoritarian. It's not like Catholicism that is much more rigid in its beliefs. It's much more extreme, if you will. And I know most people do not like extreme religion. They do not like rigid religion. And I think everybody could be a Protestant. In fact, if you ask me, I think most people just naturally are. That's just my opinion. You can disagree with it. But I think generally, most people are. So, absolutely agree. Environmental norms should be influenced by mass consumption and not from an authority. Environmental norms should be influenced by mass consumption. Neutral or hesitant. Mass consumption, that just gives me bad vibes. Prisons should no longer exist. Absolutely disagree. What? GMOs should be forbidden outside research. I think GMOs, if you look at the population of the world, we kind of need them. But I am hesitant. I am. National chauvinism during sports competitions is not absolutely disagree. Why are you having a sports competition if you're not okay with this? Just leave. Transforming ecosystems durably to increase the quality of life of human beings is legitimate. Well, absolutely. Reduction of waste should be done by reducing production. I do somewhat agree with that. It depends. If it's ever going to hurt our economy, then no. Like I said before, I'm going to choose human life over a frog's life. 100 times out of 100 times. I'm neutral or hesitant on this one. Banks should remain private. I do somewhat agree. I don't want to say absolutely agree because banks are kind of shitty. It's the idea of a bank is kind of fucked up in my opinion, but they're necessary. But I don't want the state to control them. That's just stupid, man. The state with money is that's like a fucking oxymoron. They don't know what to do with money. They just waste it. They would just waste it on everything. So it should be private somewhat. Yeah, I somewhat agree. School should mostly teach us our values, traditions. I mean, yeah, isn't that what school does? It should. I mean, I know it teaches us our fundamental knowledge, but is it teaching us this? It should be. Yes. So absolutely. I absolutely agree. It should be. As long as you're still getting all the important stuff, you know, your math, English, science, you know, all of the skills you need to be successful in post-secondary school, university, and college. As long as you're still getting all of that, then yes, these things should definitely be included. All right, that's the last question. Let's see what we got. Fatherland, work, liberty. We are very conservative. We are very nationalist and capitalist. POG, additional characteristics, pragmatism. Politics objectively boil down to looking at where the problems are and trying to solve them according to the means available. Complotism. The biggest problems of our society are the work of a small group of people. Okay, I didn't say this. I did not say this. That neutralized that. I did not say that. For you, religion is important, especially yours. It is therefore appropriate to spread it as globally as possible. True. And that is my political beliefs on April 2nd, 2020. That's all we got for now. Thank you for watching.